Hey everyone, it's Sharon and we are so excited to get started on this video. We're going to be doing lots of different painting techniques along with using mixed media, papers, napkins, molds, baking soda techniques. We are going to be doing a lot. It's jam-packed. So we're going to start out with, I just showed you, I have a bucket full of these amazing casting resin molds. I make them up ahead when I'm just bored, or if I'm making one for something and I want to go ahead and make a lot more, because these, as you can see, I'm heating them up with my heat tool. You can mold these and bend them how you want. If you use clay, you cannot do that. I love clay molds too. These actually are going to end up looking more like clay molds once we finish with this project, and I'll show you a little bit more about that later. But I'm getting this heated up so that I can cut it. I need that little crown to be shorter at the top to fit in the center top piece of this piece of wood. Now this is a piece of salvaged wood is what I'm calling it. It looks like an old picture frame that someone cut out by hand. It looks very rustic, very uneven, but when we finish with it, it's going to be a really neat piece, or at least I think so. Of course, you guys will let me know in the comments below. Now, once I get my piece cut down the way I want it, I'm going to go ahead and glue it on with that triple thick Titebond glue. You can use hot glue with this. I think the Titebond is great for molds. You could probably use wood glue, the Dollar Tree wood glue, but this is what I'm using. I'm not going to film all of the molding. I'm going to step back and let you watch some of this, and I'm just showing you a close-up of how I shrink that to make it fit my need, and I do that several times throughout with these molds. I will continue heating these up as I go. I'm going to be overlapping some of these molds on top of each other and under each other so that they look layered. And as I do that, I will need to heat them up pretty hot and then mold them to kind of, I don't know, let's see, kind of like go down on both sides over top of the molds, if that makes sense. So they're touching the wood, and there's going to be cracks, and I'm going to show you how we're going to fill those in a little while. Now this large cameo mold, it's a little wide and it's trying to stick out on the edge of this wood. I want it up on this area. I don't want it down lower. It would have fit better if I would have put it down lower. So I'm just heating it up and molding it to stay inside of that frame, if that makes sense. You can definitely cut these down and shape them with the heat to fit the project that you want or the size of your base. And that's what I'm doing here. Like this heart, I'm going to heat it up and I'm going to kind of smash it down while it's hot with that glue to stick to the wood, but then also form to the tip of the top of that other mold. Since I showed you several examples, I went ahead and did the rest of this off camera. Now we are going to add a few extra pieces on top of the molds that's already here. We will heat them up and kind of mold them to lay better on top of these molds, but we're going to be using this Salty Kiss from DIY. It's clay paint. This works great on projects like this because it's very textured, and you can use it to fill in gaps. But we're also going to use some other products with this. I'm using my Mr. bottle. This is kind of, has been sitting around for a while, this Salty Kiss, so it's quite thick. So I'm using my Mr. bottle to help smooth this paint on here. I do get it kind of wet in some places and it doesn't stick, but we'll fix that a little bit later. I'm going to go ahead and get a full coat on here, and then we're going to take some Dixie Belle sea salt, I think it's what it's called, or yeah, I think it's sea salt, or you can use DIY salt wash, you can use baking soda, and I'm going to mix it with the same color of green paint while adding some water to get it the consistency I want. Now, if you have thinner paint, you don't really need to add water, and I'm not sure that water is something that's suggested for this, but because the clay paint is so thick, I needed another liquid initially to get it mixed in. Once I got it mixed in, then the thickness was perfect because I need it to be thick to fill in underneath of these molds. And I'm just taking my paintbrush and big globs of it and just kind of shoving it underneath of those molds and then patting it to give it a finished look. I go ahead and get a little bit smaller one because that large one, even though it works great to get a lot out at once, it just wasn't great for getting in those little crevices. Now this mixture will fill in all those little gaps like up there near that crown and just give it such a neat aged look for that matter, and like a crumbly, which gives the casting resin more of a clay look. I went ahead and just smoothed a little bit kind of all over the frame too, so that paint had a texture, but I didn't hit every spot, and it's fine. If there was some spots that looked kind of too thick and wasn't smooth enough, I used my mister bottle and just sprayed them a little bit and took my brush and smoothed over those areas to get the consistency and texture all over the piece. This green is just a base layer, and really not a lot of it will show through the end. This piece actually is going to look totally different than what it does now. You guys are going to be like, oh my gosh, where'd the green go? But it does play a part in giving a dark undertone. Once I finish this, I do let this dry very well before, well, I don't know that it's 100% dry, but I let it dry, and now I'm going to be adding a different darker green and some of these blues by DIY. I go ahead and add I think it's sea glass. I had mermaid tail there, but I just felt like mermaid tail was a little bit too dark for what I wanted, even though it's not much difference. So now I'm just adding a coat of this all over top of the green. I do leave a little of the green coming through, but not a whole lot of it. Once I get this layer on, I had originally mixed some of the different paints, the DIY Monet, Salty Kiss, and this sea glass together to get kind of a dark teal, and I decided not to use that, but after I got the 2 coats of the green and the aqua on there that I wanted, I grabbed that mixture to give just a few little, I don't think that I used any of that dark blue that I just showed. I'm pretty sure I didn't, but I wanted to dry brush this kind of dark teal just in different little places, but not all over. I just hit some places and then let that dry. This just adds a little bit more shadow to our piece and gives it more of a layered paint look. You guys will have to let me know if you like this kind of stuff. I know I've had a lot of comments. People are like, I want to see painting techniques again. I really miss those videos. I miss all the mixed media. So this video is for you. For you all that want these, this is for you. These do take a lot longer. There are a lot of processes. I do love them, and I will always do these kind of videos, but I will continue to do the recycling videos, the shorter videos, and maybe even add some paper videos in later on. All right, so here comes the total transformation. We're going to add some white wax to this. I want this to be a sort of French blue with the whitewash look, kind of like the Marie Antoinette blues, and the powdery look, and the white wax. Did I say whitewash? The white wax does exactly that. It does what I want to this piece. You guys, let me know, do you like it without the white wax? Do you like, I mean, I do. I love that dark and grungy color, but I had a different thing in mind, and the white wax is not going to be the end of this, so I am just coating this, like drenching it with this white wax. Once I get this good and coated, I am going to let it set for a few minutes. So I forgot to mention, after I let all the greens and the blue paints dry, I put a clear coat of just matte clear finisher. You can use anything that you want. You can use liquid patina, you can use Mod Podge, you can use just some kind of Rust-Oleum clear coat. I used a clear coat, let that dry before I put this wax on. I went ahead and let the wax sit because I knew that it would wipe off too quick because it's so buttery. If you let it sit for a little while, then it will attach itself or bond to your piece and not wipe so much back. So then I decided to wipe a lot of it back, but leave a lot of it on there because I wanted to keep that powdery look. So I knew that this was going to be, like I said, more of a Marie Antoinette, sort of French, higher end, not necessarily French country. I wanted to add some gold to it. So I'm using the very bottom of one of my gold rub and buffs. It's the antique gold, and I'm having to squeeze it pretty hard to get it out of there. You guys, I love this stuff. I've learned to use gold paint in its place, but I really think rub and buff has its place. So I probably will order some more for certain projects, but I will continue to use gold paint to do similar techniques because it does work. So we're just adding this gold to all of the highlighted areas and getting it on the frame all over. If you're enjoying this project, wait until you see the projects coming up. You don't want to miss them. The pieces that are just trash worthy and salvage, you will not want to miss how they turn out. Stay tuned. Now you can use a brush to do this. I just feel like with my finger I have better control. So for the back of this, I dug through my stash and found a really old backboard that I actually had cut down to fit the inside of this frame. And I painted it white, and now I'm going to be using some of this Upcycle decoupage paper with this music pattern. I'm just going to cut it out and do the traditional Mod Podge. Brush on, lay the paper down, and then Mod Podge over it technique. I also use a mister bottle to wet the paper to help it stick better, and I use the saran wrap ball to help smooth it out. Once this dries, I will go ahead and just use scissors to cut around the edge because you're not going to see the edges in this frame. If it was something you'd see the edges, I would use sandpaper and a downward motion. You all will have to let me know what you think about this one. I didn't put a glass in it because I felt like that someone could just clip on a photo or not even put anything in it, just use it as is. Believe it or not, this next project, I saved this from the Goodwill bins. It was in a bin that had been picked over and ready to leave, go back out and be thrown in the dumpster. It still had a tag on the back of it and looks brand new. It is a paper mache deer head. So we are going to be using this as our next salvaged project. You all, people throw away just, I don't understand, but you know, I understand getting rid of things, but this looks brand new. It is brand new. It still had the tag, and it was in the bins and no one wanted it. It was picked over and ready to go out to, I'm assuming they throw everything in the trash after it goes to the bins because the bins are already stuff that people don't want. Okay, anyways, I'm going to give this a good coat of black paint, making sure that I cover all that paper mache up. We're going to transform this into a gorgeous project. This is so easy and so simple to use in any kind of decor. I will be making it kind of a spring look with a little dark and moody underneath. I've been asked to do some shabby chic, some dark and moody, dark and grungy, and dark and grungy or dark and moody spring. This video has it all. So this is the kind of dark and moody spring piece that I'm doing for this video. What I thought would be really cool for this is to grab a bunch of my IOD transfer papers or images and try to find some that would look really good on this black background and use up some of these. I've not been buying a lot of them. You know, it's even some of the new releases. I have bought some, but I'm trying to go through the ones I have. I don't use them as often as I should. So that's what we're going to do with this piece. I'm going to make this look like the vines are coming up into the rack, the deer head rack. It ends up looking so gorgeous. I don't know if I'm going to keep this or if I'm going to sell it, but I end up using the sunflower and some roses and then some of the purpley flowers. I really enjoyed making this piece and just making these transfers fit in certain spots. What I want to do with one of these sunflowers, and these are the only two I think that I had left, is I want this sunflower to kind of be coming from the side over the nose area. So I'm just trying to figure out how that's going to look the best. And I end up cutting the little green piece off because I don't really want that on the nose. And I go back and cut some of those other sunflower petals off to fill in where I cut the green from. And I also want one of the roses to kind of cover one of the eyes. They'll offset each other. It'll look really cool. Now, you all know I don't do a ton of planning or prepping, and things just kind of come as I start working on projects. But I started to put this sunflower down, and I knew that I wanted some of those little purple flowers to be coming up the top of this skull or this head. So I had to change plans and put those on first. With transfers, you kind of want to pay attention if you're wanting to do layering, which one needs to go first. Now, there are ways you can maneuver and add things in to make them look like they are layered. And I do that a little bit here, a little bit later, because I don't put enough of the purple flowers on to begin with. But I'm starting with these little purple flowers. I wanted to mention something. Once you get these things rubbed on and you go and pull that transfer sheet off, it is recommended that you flip it over and use the shiny side to burnish your transfer. Well, I'm going to tell you more than once I've done that and ripped my transfer off. And I do it here. I flip this over, I go to burnish it, and then one of my flowers, a little piece starts coming up. So I've been trying to take it off and use my fingers to kind of rub things down. Now, if you transfer something on a flat surface and you get every single spot rubbed really, really good, you're not going to have this problem. The problem is this isn't a flat surface. I don't get everything rubbed really, really good on, so it's not sticking 100. And then when I go to burnish it, I'm grabbing what's not stuck and pulling it back off. That's just a little tidbit. Either make sure it's stuck really, really good before you burnish it, or use your finger or some saran wrap to kind of pat it down real good and then burnish it. All right, so now we're moving on to the sunflower. We're going to do the same thing with it. You can see I've already cut that green piece out on it. Generally, when I do curved surfaces and transfers, they pop off so easy. And this did, but because it was curved surfaces, it started breaking apart, so I just went ahead and cut it up and then patched it back on. You can't tell at all that I did that. I was going to be adding some of those flower petals back on top of the cutout portion anyways, but you'll see that some of the pieces are starting to come off but not attached to the deer head, so I cut the transfer itself and just piece it together to make it an easier process, plus not to lose some of my flower, because if you're not careful, if these start coming off and they're not sticking to your project because of the curves, then they might start sticking to each other and you've lost part of your project. So just be real mindful of that, or just cut your pieces apart and do tiny sections, because the transfers look like they're still together and you can't tell you've cut them once you put them back together, if that makes sense. want to take this time to thank you all for watching my videos, for commenting, for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. Hit the thumbs up button or the like button. It really helps my channel. And again, the comments, I love hearing from you guys. You give me so many neat ideas or afterthoughts or things you might have done differently or something you might have added to make the project look even better. And I love that. So keep those comments coming. Also, if you watch my videos when they come out, especially the people that are subscribed, it tells me that my subscribers are watching, and because my subscribers are watching and paying attention, that it's pushing my videos out to new people who then get to see the videos too. So I appreciate all of you that are watching the videos, especially the ones that, you know, maybe they're not your favorite, maybe the recycling's not your favorite, but if you watch it or let it play, especially until the end, it pushes it out to so much many more people. And YouTube tells me that. It says, hey, your subscribers are really doing a great job of pushing your videos out. They're watching them till the end. They're really paying attention. And now because of them, you're getting all these other subscribers. So that is all you all. That's not me. So I just want to thank you so much for all of that and let you know kind of how it works, because there are people I subscribe to on here. And I tell you guys this in the comments, I get so inspired by other YouTubers and watching their creations, then I go create. And I hear the same thing from you all. You tell me, oh, you've inspired me. And I'm thinking, that's me. I'm you too. I do the same thing. I watch other people. And sometimes they make things that I'm like, I probably wouldn't try that. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and watch this because it's going to push their videos out and they're going to be able to make more videos that I might like better and be able to keep them on YouTube. So if you do that, you just don't know how much I appreciate that. All right, once we get this face done, which is kind of what I've been working on, I'm going to take these leaves and I'm going to take some of the stems of the leaves and I'm going to cut them to form around these antlers. Now, I'm not going to do all of this on camera. I'm going to do just a few and then you'll see the finished project coming back up because we're going to add something, one of my favorite things, coming up. Did anyone guess what it was when I said that? So we're going to be adding some rub and buff to this and it just finishes this piece off. Once we add this rub and buff, I'll just put a matte coat clear sealer all over this and seal it up nice and pretty so those transfers don't go anywhere. What do you all think about the leaves and the vines on the antlers? Now that took me a hot minute, but I loved it. I loved piecing them together to make them look like they were just creeping up and out onto this deer head rack. And then I put a flower kind of coming off that rose and tied in those vines going down into the flowers so it all looks like it's attached. I love this piece and I think this could fit in a lot of different styles, like I said, dark and moody. It could fit really in a girl's room. It could fit in a higher end look, maybe even farmhouse, a little frilly farmhouse. But let me know what you guys think of this one. I am pretty obsessed with it. Oh, and I forgot that clear coat that I use is actually DIY's clear wax. This stuff is amazing. It's like a buttery soft wax, but it dries to a hard finish, and it gives just enough of a hint of a clear coat. Not shiny, but not very flat either. This next project is a true salvaged item. This is a large rug that is falling apart. I decided that we were going to turn this into at least 2 different pieces. So what I do is go ahead and cut the rest of it apart, saving the very large centerpiece. And I do leave some of the pieces attached because I thought this would make a perfect wall hanging, and wait till you see how it turns out. Now, it may not be everyone's style, but I really thought this could use a traditional boho brights look, so that's what we did with this piece. The really neat part about this one is it has these beautiful pieces of art already throughout it with the way that they have braided this and formed patterns and like starbursts. So I just want to show you guys a little bit of the process of me taking it apart. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this because you can kind of get the gist of it. You will see that a lot of the pieces are very disformed, or I guess that's a word, disformed, because it was in a pile, and I asked, it was in a pile at a Goodwill bin, and I asked the lady, I was like, how much is this? And she said, you can have it for $1. And I thought, well, if I don't take it, it's going in the trash. I'm really surprised they hadn't already thrown it in the trash. So for $1, we end up making a beautiful piece out of this. Now, I do something later on that I kind of regret, and you guys are going to find that out. You'll see coming up, and you'll have to let me know. I'll definitely tell you what it is. But I hope you guys are enjoying this video. Stay tuned because there are 2 more awesome projects coming up. You don't want to miss how we save them. Before we get started on the large piece, I wanted to show you this was in the center of this rug. I'm going to spray it with some water, get it a little damp, and then lay a heavy board on it to get this to flatten out, and you all, it flattens out beautifully. So as you can see here, I have left some pieces attached. This piece to the left with the 3 large circles and the attached tiny circles is going to be the top of our hanging. And then I took all of the round star or flower looking pieces and kind of just made a shape as to how that I thought this would look good hanging on a wall. And some of the larger pieces are attached, maybe like 2, and they have a few circles down at the bottom, and we do have to alter some of this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this tan wire. I had ordered this a couple months ago for projects, and it worked perfect for this one. So I'm just going to cut off short pieces of this wire and feed it through the pieces that I want to wire together. And once I get it twisted on the end, then I will flatten that twisted part to the back, and you don't really even notice it. You could use twine for this if you want to, because this is going to get painted, and you'll see that coming up. You can use any kind of paint on this type of material, but I thought I would pull out some of my older artist paints because they're drying up, and they have, or they're acrylic, they have a sealer in them, and I can just do, you know, a coat or 2 and do some blending. You definitely can do this with chalk paints or just the regular apple barrel paints. I'm just going to paint these like flowers, and I'm going to paint the centers all the same and then blend colors out. So like this yellow one, I'm starting with a bright yellow, but I'm going to go back in with some white to tone it down, and then I'll use a little bit of orange, and I'll use a little bit of a darker mustard yellow. You don't have to do this. You can just do straight yellow and a brown center or a black center, you know, whatever you want. But I am going to blend these flowers and kind of make them look multicolor of yellow-ish, if that makes sense. And then once I do that, I go ahead and paint around the flowers, and we'll talk about that coming up. I'm going to play a little bit of music, and I'm only going to show you a few of these. If we sat here and I painted all these, it could be a really long video. I want to make sure you get enough of the information, so if you want to do something that you can, but if this was just a video about this in itself, of course, I would have more time to show more of it. What I did here on this yellow one was I put my bright yellow down, and then I added a little bit of white on top of it and blended it in with that wet yellow, which made it a brighter yellow or a duller yellow. I'm not sure. It just gave it a variant. And then I took this browns and cinnamony color and put it on the centerpiece and blended that out up into the yellow, so it looked like the colors are flowing instead of just stopping and starting. We're doing that with the pink too. As you can see, I've got some pink and white I'm putting on there together, and I've also got some dark fuchsia that's going to kind of go around the edges where my dark center will be, so that it looks like it's coming out of the flower in dark and then getting kind of lighter towards the ends. I go ahead and finish the rest of these off camera. Initially with the yellow one, I had only painted the flower part and didn't kind of go around the edge, but I went ahead and fixed that when you'll see coming up. And here's where it kind of gets tricky. I go ahead and put in all the circles that I felt like needed to be there to make my shape, and I have put them, twined them in as well with the wire. I like the natural on here, and to be honest, I kind of wish I would have left it. I really want your all's opinion. It's not going to matter now, but hindsight's 2020. So I start using this, it's a Champlain color by Fusion, and it just felt way too bright. It's not really white, but on this color where the background is kind of a dark, it just looked just bright white. So I end up using, I think I go over several pieces, and I even go over the little circles with that dark color like in the center of the flowers, which I did not like. I don't like the dark in the center of the flowers, so I end up using some DIY in the color Faded Burlap to go around all the circles, and I mix a cinnamony color that's lighter than what's on the center of this now to go on the other pieces, and you'll see that coming up. So you can see here I am still deciding to use this Fusion, but I do go back with that DIY in the color Faded Burlap, and I have painted those centers and the extra pieces that cinnamony color. Now I have a couple things here that I need to go over. One, this is a bedpost. Actually, it's half of a bedpost, and I thought it would make a great piece to hold this on the wall. So I painted it the Faded Burlap to match around the circles. Down at the bottom, there are 4 circles, and it's off center. I end up removing one of them. The 3 circles makes it even. And I'm taking some Dollar Tree nautical rope, and I'm tying around the tops of this onto the top of that bedpost. While I tie and loop the thread around, I'm using some hot glue to keep that in place. I don't do all of that on camera. Again, this was a pretty long project, but I really wanted something awesome to come out of that gorgeous rug that would be kind of like a piece of wall art. Once I get those looped around and twined, I go ahead and just do the same thing. I loop them back around and twine more to match up with the twine that I already have there. Now there was definitely lots of ways this could have been attached to this bedpost. I really thought about doing the kind of triangle where it would hang from the rope at the top, although it was attached to this wood. But then I decided I would go ahead and loop it around the piece of wood and secure it. And there's a slit there, and I was not recording, but I found this old piece of metal that came off of like a dresser, and I used it and even in a little knob that came off of a dresser. They didn't come together, but I put them together. I put it over that slot, and then I used some of that rust color paint and a little bit of gold rub and buff, and I glued it together with some E6000. Now, I don't know if that looks kind of weird, but I thought it was just a little ornate piece that would make this look even more unique. Let me know what you guys think about this one. Was it worth all the work? Do you like the upcycle and the salvage of it? This next project, the bottle is pretty gross. Like I said, these are the worst of the worst. It's got some sticky stuff on it. I don't know what's down in it. So I took my alcohol and a scraper and got all that goo, and I'm not sure what else was on there, off. And we're going to transform this into something gorgeous for the spring, or it can go actually set out all year long. Normally alcohol works on this, but I had to get out the heat gun and heat up whatever that glue was, scrape it off, and then go back in with alcohol to finish cleaning the sticky off. It did clean up great. I'm going to start off giving this a good coat with a little makeup sponge of this DIY little black dress. You don't have to shake it. I was shaking it to get some on the lid because I wanted to use just the lid as my paint palette. So I'm just going to cover this really good using a sponge so I get some texture on this, and then let that dry before the next step. Once that dries, I'm going to go ahead and give this a clear coat. I just use a Rust-Oleum matte clear coat. You can use Mod Podge, whatever clear coat you have, because I'm going to paint on this and I don't want to reactivate that chalk paint. Or, sorry, that clay paint. I saw this gorgeous bottle on Pinterest painted with, I think these are what's called daisies. I'm not 100% sure, and I loved it. It had this black background, and then the white and the green and the yellow just popped off of that bottle. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to do my best to not have this sped up too much. I know you all like the real-time painting, and maybe I'll do some single videos that's just real-time painting with one item because of the requests that I've been getting to do the real-time painting. So don't get too frustrated with me on this one where it will be sped up because of the length of this video. I plan on doing some real-time painting for you guys in the future, but let me know what you think about this. I just looked at the picture and just freehanded it, and of course, if anything was how I didn't like it, I just took some black paint and went back over it and then fixed it. I'm all about that. If you can paint anything, you can go back and fix it with some other paint. Just paint back over it. It's really not that difficult. Don't let it stress you too bad. Just take your time and get it how you want it. Now, I didn't paint the whole thing on here. Once you see what's coming up, it'll be the completed painting of the daisies, or like I said, not sure, maybe these are forget-me-nots, I don't know, but I just painted what I wanted on there, and now we're going to do another mixed media step. We've kind of done this before. We're going to be using some alcohol inks, and I wanted to put some gold like we did in the past, but also some green. Now, this, where I used that matte top coat, it gave this almost like a chalkboard look on some of the parts of the bottle. you can see that here. I just want to mention that in case you're wondering, what is that white weird stuff? But that's not going to matter because we're going to be using some alcohol inks.
Alcohol inks come in different bases. This is a pearlescent or a pearl one. It's a pearl green. And when I use the gold, it's more of a metallic one. So I thought that we would use this pearl color because I knew it would show up rather than just straight green alcohol ink, because I'm pretty sure on black that wouldn't show up. So I'm just using a little bit of a plastic here to kind of pat this around and smooth it out. I'm going to do that, and then we're going to add some gold to go with this. Until we get the look that I want, I thought about using yellow metallic, but I thought it might be too bright. And I just kind of mix these two together. And once I get it finished, I do tone some of this back with the original black paint, and that's on the bottle, because I framed this out and I didn't frame it out that great on the front. So the black paint will tie this all in. I really enjoy this layering process of putting the alcohol inks over top each other, going back in with that black paint. It just gives such a great look. I know a lot of people don't necessarily like layering, but in the end, you really can tell the details and the time put into it with that layered paint to give it a higher end look or a more artistic look. Once I finish that layering, I thought we would do a little bit of splattering. I don't know if I've done this on this channel, but I'm just taking some of that alcohol ink, pouring it, and getting it on my brush. And I just tap my brush to get the splatters. You can do this several ways. You can use a toothbrush, you can use a flicking motion, but I just tap it and it just does the perfect little specks, and it doesn't get on my fingers or anything else and doesn't make a huge mess. I've noticed that the toothbrush method really makes a big mess, but this one doesn't. To finish this off, I'm going to take the cork or the lid and add some gold rub and buff over that black to give it kind of a, I don't know, a black hammered look. And then I'm just going to pop it in there. We'll seal this up with a matte coat. Add a little bit of ribbon and a bow, which can be removed. And this piece is finished. You guys let me know what you think about this one. Do you like this really nasty bottle turned into a cool piece of art, or something you could actually store small things in if you really wanted to? Our last and final salvage project is this very large tobacco basket. I think that's what these are called. I know a few years ago Hobby Lobby was covered with these. They were very popular, and this one has seen better days. It was also in some trash, and I thought, you know, we could salvage part of this. We could probably salvage a lot more than part of it, but I have a little plan for this. I got this and a broken frame, and we're going to put the two pieces together with some other little pieces of junk to make this into some wall decor. So what I'm going to do is cut everything down except for that big square in the middle, and we're going to keep that piece. We're going to give this a light coat of some very watered down antiquing wax from Waverly. Now, I mean, this is really watered down. This was I've had this bottle for a very, very long time, but it only had a little on the bottom, and I added probably half a cup to 3/4 cup of water. We're going to give that a coat and let that dry. Next, we're going to take this frame. It does have a few cracks. I'm going to take my Titebond triple thick glue and glue those cracks and seal that up so that we can use this frame. But I really wanted to use it even though it is broken. Most of the pieces that's going on this project is quite broken. I'm only showing you one of the repairs, but there were several cracks on this that were not quite as bad as this one. This one I had to use my little clamp it and let that dry, and then we're going to add 2 coats of black paint to this. This is definitely a multi-part, I don't know what you call it, compilation or combination. The next part of this is I got these 2 silver pans. Now they have stickers on them for like $3 and $6. I think they look like they came out of the bottom of something, but these were in the bins at the Goodwill bins. I didn't pay $3 for that, but I got this, and we're going to paint this. I'm going to give it 2 coats of white chalk paint. This is going to be a centerpiece for this project. The next piece is this cute little frame. I got 3 of these at the Goodwill bins one time, and they've been in my stash, so I'm going to give this a good coat of that black paint, the same color as the frame. These didn't have any backs or glass on them, but I knew that we could use these in some type of project, and this project is perfect. Once this gets dry, we're going to use this as we assemble these pieces together. We've put the frame, that tobacco basket on the back, and now we're going to attach this white panel that I've painted. I'm going to use 2 wood rounds because there's a small lip that makes this kind of shallow, and it needs something to attach to this basket. So we use these wood rounds to do that with. We'll use some of that Tite-Bond glue and some hot glue for temporary hold and attach that, let that dry, and then we're going to do a little bit of decoupage on this. I thought this bee image with the scripting would be perfect. It goes with the colors and the frame, so I'm just going to cut out one of these images, tear off a little bit around it, making sure that I only have 1 layer. You make sure you get all the layers off the back. I'm going to use some water and a paintbrush to kind of make it into a circle. I'm going to initially stick it down with a glue stick and then use Mod Podge underneath of it to attach it, using Mod Podge over the whole piece to seal it in. We're going to take the frame, add some E6000 and some hot glue, and we're going to frame that bee and tie this piece in. Now I do end up adding some florals to this at the end after and off camera. You guys have to let me know if you like it without the florals or with, and let me know what you think about this project. I think the frame could have been white and it would have been really pretty too. But let me know what you think about how we saved that tobacco basket, and let me know what you think about this video. I really appreciate you watching this and watching it all the way to the end, and if you did, give me a comment of the word bee or give me an emoji bee. And I'll see you all in the next video. I have some super special things coming up.